Welcome to the Confident Retirement Podcast. Is doing the most important things alone a good idea? How comfy are you with your choices when it comes to life's biggest decisions? What is real peace of mind with financial confidence, and how can you get it? Kris Flammang and Mark Peachy are the founders of LPF Advisors in Sarasota, Florida. On the show, they bring together the best and brightest minds to share with you how to have a more confident financial picture. They empower listeners with simple, common sense and financial wisdom. And now, here are your hosts from LPF Advisors.
Okay, so I want to welcome everybody to the Confident Retirement Podcast, brought to you by LPF Advisors. I am your host, Kris Flammang, here as always. And today I have the pleasure of Lauren Winans to the show. She's the CEO and founder of Next Level Benefits, your on-demand HR experts in waiting. She sees her role as a strategic partner to ensure a benefits package that's meaningful and impactful. Lauren, thanks for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kris.
Yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah,
I got all kinds of stuff to go over. I'm excited about our topics today. So your professional path doesn't really look like it was a straight line necessarily. So take me through kind of what led you to the place that you are now and the career that you're in now.
Sure. Yeah. I kind of fell into human resources. I think a lot of people end up doing that. I started my career at a health insurance company and learned everything there is to know about, medical insurance and claims. Then I decided to kind of move on and jump into a different kind of role. And I ended up in an entry-level benefits administration position. And that's within an HR function. And, kind of been, climbing the ranks, since then, had pretty much every job there is to have in employee benefits. And then most recently, before I kind of, decided to do my own thing, was previously in an HR leadership team reporting to a CHRO, really kind of focused on creating, a best place to work and really just, focused on, employees and offering the right benefits. And got to a place where I was just, it felt like it was too much, There's so much when you're in the corporate position. I was in corporate for 20 years. It's like you're on the hamster wheel. And so I was looking for something new, different challenge, but still wanted to use my expertise. Always wanted to own my own business. So I founded Next Level Benefits. And for the past 2 years, we've been focused on helping clients of all sizes in all industries with any sort of HR projects that they have. Basically, my model is that we're able to loan out HR professionals for, short-term or long-term projects. We partner with HR teams. We also fill in companies that don't have HR teams. And so we just kind of do a little bit of everything. And my past experience has really helped quite a bit in this process because I've primarily worked for large, global organizations and really have seen it all when it comes to HR.
Okay. So you said something there I'm hoping that you will elaborate on. You said you were on the hamster wheel.
Yes.
And it got to be too much. So could you kind of elaborate on that? Like what was the too much? I don't want to guess what it was. I want you to tell me.
Yeah, the too much, it was, the combination of office politics without strong leadership is really a recipe for disaster. It got to a point where I basically, in the 5 or 6 years that I was at my last corporate employer, I had 3 different bosses and 5 different CEOs. The churn was too much. It was disruptive. It made it difficult to be productive. It made it difficult to be strategic. And I really enjoy, building HR strategy and, really enjoy making investments in employees. And those 2 things were not part of my job description any longer. So it was clearly, it was tactical. It was lacking the creativity that I really wanted. So it became too stressful, quite frankly, to go in every day. And I just, I resigned and they were like, well, where are you going? And I'm like, home. And they're like, what? I'm like, I just need a break. I need a break to reassess where I'm at in my career and what I want to do next. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and they make no apologies for it.
Mm-hmm. So you stopped at Starbucks on the way home, and then you went home. Right? After you left. Okay, so let's go back to the year that you started the company, you started the business. So if you could go back and tell that person something, and give them some advice, what would that be?
It took a lot for me to make the choice to take the leap. And number one, I would congratulate myself that I made that decision. I would also remind myself that, there was nothing to fear, there was nothing to worry about, and that, doing something that you feel passionate about is almost always going to work out. And so, if I knew what I know now, I would not have lost any sleep. I would not have stressed over how the website looks and, all the different components that go into creating a business. I would have just committed to it and got going and not stressed as much. But in the beginning, you just don't know how it's going to pan out. And, I'm very thankful that we have been successful since the first month that we started.
Awesome. I really like that answer. So why might a company or an HR department at a company engage your services versus going at it alone?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons why. Some of the reasons that we end up partnering with clients, it could be that they really just need some extra expertise in-house. They might have a fairly junior team, and they really have a complex project in front of them and just need that deeper expertise. So we can come in that type of situation. We've also helped when there has been open roles that are taking a really long time to fill, or perhaps there is someone who is out on an extended leave of absence, maybe a maternity or paternity leave. And, we step in and we just kind of help to lead the team in the interim. And so that interim fractional leadership is really important. It keeps the wheels on the bus. But, aside from those two situations, we also come in just to be extra bandwidth, extra hands to get through tasks and projects. And throughout the pandemic, HR has been, such a critical piece of every business's, strategic plan around how to manage COVID. And so bandwidth is coming at a premium these days, and it's really hard to, combat burnout. And so using our services, whether it be for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, it helps. It helps your team. It helps you to get some expertise that you wouldn't necessarily have access to. You don't have to teach us anything because we know we speak the same language. We know exactly what needs to happen. We even have some clients who just mail us a laptop and say, get to work. So, really, there's a variety of different reasons that our clients reach out to us, and we can help them in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's compelling. So what are some areas of your practice, of your company, that you personally get the most enjoyment out of right now?
My deep expertise and my love is employee benefits. I am an employee benefits nerd. I know a lot about health insurance. I know more than I want to know about retirement plans, and I love it. I'm super excited when it comes to benefits, and I feel that employee benefits are a special part of the employee experience and the total rewards package that should be offered at every organization. So I feel really excited when we have projects that come in that are employee benefits related. We've done some employee benefits assessments, some total rewards assessments lately, and those are the projects that get me the most excited. So okay. I like to spend a lot of time in that space.
So do you think there's a big misconception that either people or businesses have about either your line of work or whether they need to offer benefits or not?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a couple misconceptions going on. I think there's, some, HR teams that might necessarily not have benefits experts or total rewards experts in-house because they feel that an HR generalist can kind of handle everything. And, not to take away from any of their talents, but there is a benefit to having someone focused on both compensation and benefits so that the entire employee experience is enriched in a way that you just wouldn't have with, general HR individual kind of creating a benefits package. There are certain things that employees are looking for these days. And if you want to be competitive, you have to be offering a robust benefits package and competitive compensation. Just flat out, you must do that, especially right now in the job market that we're in and the climate that we are in. So I think some misconceptions are you don't necessarily need that depth of experience in-house. And I think on the other side of the coin, there's also the, folks that are not offering benefits to their employees at all, which I think is a clear miss, and it's going to decrease the level of talent that you bring into your organization.
So what would you say are the most overlooked areas or blind spots when it comes to company offerings, right? So either we don't think that's important, or we're not going to do that, or, our people don't care about that.
So to date, it feels as if mental health is something that has been, top of mind, and it has been something that hasn't necessarily had the right focus on it when it comes to creating a benefits package. I mean, yes, you can, access mental health services through any sort of health insurance that you may be offered, but there are additional support services around meditation and mindfulness and access to telehealth when it comes to therapy sessions. Being able to schedule and structure your day and learn more about, different aspects of, your health and how to effectively manage yourself and your family and the boundaries that you need to create at work. There's all these different aspects that kind of touch on and influence our mental health. And there are many employers doing this well because they recognize the value of tending to and supporting employees' mental health. But there are just as many employers that really, it wasn't top of mind until the pandemic came through. So it was, really something that, we just want to be able to offer something and forget about it. We still have a few clients today that have been hesitant to move forward with additional mental health benefits because they're just not sure it's going to be a good ROI. It's hard to quantify the return on investment when it comes to a lot of employee benefits. And so this is one of those areas that I think that folks are struggling with. For example, mental health is we're just starting to really scratch the surface, I think, from an employer standpoint of how do we support employees in an effective manner without overstepping our bounds. And so that, I think, is something that is a barrier for a lot of employers. That's the thing I'm seeing most right now.
Okay. So let's change gears a little bit. What retirement benefit offerings do you see getting the most traction right now? So we're putting on the nerd hat, right?
It's on.
So here you go. Go ahead. Go.
So, the retirement benefit offerings that I'm seeing most common right now, really that focus on company match is still very important. Also, focus on financial wellness, making sure that people have access to educational opportunities to learn more about how they can manage their finances today to be successful in the future. That is a really big one. So when we talk about financial wellness and financial well-being, that can be, anything from maybe offering some lunch and learns or offering access to, professionals to help you planning and advising and choosing investment options. It can also simply just be having access to online tools, budgeting tools, an ability to really kind of tackle your debt. Those sorts of things are really gaining a lot of traction and have over the last couple of years. And then there's a third, it's definitely more of a trend in benefits over the past couple of years, and it has been student loan assistance. And a lot of the 401k vendors and administrators are kind of offering these additional services because they've recognized that student loans really impact our ability to save today. And so there's student loan reimbursement programs and repayment offerings and even help to consolidate and refinance those loans. And so employers are also looking into that space as well. And so I think, top three, company match, financial wellness opportunities through education, and the student loan repayment seems to be, the top three benefits right now.
Okay. So let's hone in on one of those, because I have a question about what your take is on this. So you're familiar with auto enrollment and auto escalation. Just for our listeners who might not know, auto enrollment is if you come on with the company after a certain period of time, you're automatically enrolled in the retirement plan, and then unless you default out and choose to be out. And auto escalation is generally on an annual basis. Your contribution percentage would escalate or go up every year unless you went in and changed it or turned that off. So we see that as being a trend on being something that's being offered a lot, but we're finding that a lot of companies are choosing not to do it. So I'm curious what your take is on the reasons for that, the psychology behind that, or why they choose that.
There's two reasons. One is the noise that comes along with that. HR teams who are, benefits teams are part of, an HR department. HR teams are not, they have enough on their plate, and they don't necessarily want employees coming to them to complain. to be confused about what that deduction is that just came out of their pay, to want it back and they can't get it back. And so they just don't want to deal with it, quite frankly. So that's one. Two is the cost associated with auto enrollment, not necessarily auto escalation, but auto enrollment in general. Unless, you have the dollars, like a large employer does, to set aside for certain things like a safe harbor plan and that sort of thing, budgets are tight. And when you auto enroll employees, you're putting them in the plan. And at some point, you're going to have to company match them, assuming that you have a company match. Mm-hmm. And it costs you more. And so, quite frankly, I think those are the two barriers to that. But I think it's the noise that is really the barrier to doing that. Because I think, especially if you have part-time employees in your workforce, once they become eligible for a 401k plan, if they are eligible, that's a whole nother set of the population that you have to explain to, who might not necessarily understand a 401k the way a full-time employee does. And it can become quite a nightmare. A lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of complaints. In some cases, people leave the organization if they feel like the company took some money from them. Right. Even though it's not the case, it's hard to explain that to some folks. And so I think that's really the two reasons for why you might, be seeing a downward trend on that.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of information out there. You've seen studies, I've seen studies where we have a retirement crisis in America, right? So average 401k balances are relatively low. The percentage that people put aside on an annual basis kind of peaked during the last financial crisis, and then it's kind of trended down. Debt's trending back up for people. So I'm curious what your opinion on what some solutions are from a retirement benefit standpoint that you see might work well to help combat some of this bad news that we see with some of these studies. Can you solve the world's problems in 6 sentences or less?
I think I can. No, yeah. I mean, I can. I really think that employers need to kind of step back and assess what their philosophy around employee benefits is. So, if your philosophy as an employer is to, provide enrichment opportunities for your employees through your benefits program in an effort to attract and retain talent to your organization, then you really need to be focused on all areas of an employee's life and helping them to financially prepare themselves for retirement is not only, I think, an employer's obligation, but it's also a societal obligation. If we as employers are not helping employees to save and understand the value of saving and understand the value of, spending properly, not overspending, managing debt, then I think that we're going to lose the battle. And as we all age and get closer to retirement, what we're going to find is we're going to be working forever. So I think there is an opportunity for employers to assess their philosophy and then institute benefits that are going to make a difference. If you don't have the money to invest in necessarily, a robust 401k company match, that's okay. But you should be able to offer some education opportunity. And that comes at a very low cost. You can teach your employees the types of things that they need to know in an effort to help them in their lives outside of work. And that is really, I think, what the best employers do. So I think that's one way that we can kind of combat things. And I also think that, there's a lot of concern over mounting debt. There's debt when it comes to, medical services, the debt that you take on when you have to have some sort of, procedure done, and there's a surprise bill that comes in and you weren't expecting it. And all of those, that's one area. But, all of these different components that kind of lead someone to having, carrying around debt, I think that there's an opportunity to really kind of assess the different structures that we have in our society. I'm a big proponent of really focusing on the medical debt that kind of, can accumulate with someone who might have a chronic diagnosis or a chronic condition. And that's one of the major factors for folks kind of going into debt and or bankruptcy. And so I think there's opportunities for the government to step in. I know one of the things that they're doing is working on a No Surprises Act, which is going to be focused around stopping the surprise billing that hospitals and doctors do, mainly for emergency visits. I think it's like there's opportunities for legislation that can help us as a country and as organizations, as leaders, to really better understand the best way to support employees in a proper way. And I think, too, that there is an opportunity for folks to learn a little bit more about the dangers of getting into a bad financial situation. I think perhaps there are folks who don't understand the gravity of that situation until they're in it.
Yeah, well, and everybody likes good surprises, but no one likes bad surprises.
Nobody likes bad surprises. Nobody likes a high dollar claim that wasn't paid that is now against your credit.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes that.
Yeah, no. Let's change gears. I'm curious, tell me about one of your most satisfying client experiences. Problems they were facing, how you helped them, how it ended, the happy story at the end.
Yeah, I'm actually still working with, so the very first client that I brought on 2 years ago is still a client of ours. They're one of my favorite clients, quite frankly. They do so much for their employees, and they're constantly looking to improve. They're constantly looking to strategically enhance ways that they can further support their employees. So we work very closely with their HR department. We work very closely, particularly with the VP of Total Rewards. And she is just, hyper focused on making sure that the employees of this organization, get exactly what they need and want out of their employment with this company. They're a very large employer. They have over 55,000 employees, but they are focused on keeping, that small company feel within the organization, and they're doing a fantastic job. So we've worked on a variety of different projects for them, but I think my most satisfying was we stepped in and helped them to consolidate 170 different paid time off, vacation, and sick plans into 5 plans. And so we were able to really streamline, as well as at the same time enhance the number of days that employees were receiving, and in turn able to help with some of the accounting for how the time is accounted for. So we actually realized some cost savings for the organization, some lower accruals carrying over from year to year, and the employees got more time. Yeah. So it was an administrative win all the way around, and it was probably one of my favorite projects. It took us 14 months to do it, yeah. But we did it.
Those were probably 170 ticking time bombs.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay. But it was a great experience.
Yeah, great. That's great. So I'm curious, your first memory of money, personally.
First memory of money. I come from a family that is very motivated, that strives for perfection, right or wrong. And my mom was an executive in the telecommunications industry. My dad was a senior leader within the federal government, within the Social Security Administration. And, kind of watching both of them, I saw how hard they worked for the family, and how hard it was, to really have a family, juggle a family and a job that's fast paced. But the lesson they always taught me was that, we work hard, not only, to instill great values in our children, but also to earn money for us to do, amazing things, to have amazing experiences. And so I think I was probably maybe 6, 7, or 8, somewhere around there, when it really kind of clicked for me, like, oh, okay, like, so we don't just own this big house, like, you had to work hard for this house, and you have to work hard for, sending us to private school, and you have to work hard to, take us on vacation. All these, it was around that time frame that I realized that, money is a tool to have wonderful experiences with the people you love. And so I have a good relationship with it, because I see the greater value in it. And I'm not necessarily focused on, hoarding that money or spending all of that money. It's more of, how can I use my money to increase my quality of life here on earth? And how can I create experiences for my family and friends? Yeah,
great. Yeah, we share something there. I'm an experienced guy myself. So what would you say is your biggest life accomplishment so far, Lauren, either personally or professionally?
I'm going to stick with professionally, because I feel like I have too many personal accomplishments that I'm proud of, and I will just bore your listeners. I'm gonna stay with professional. I think my biggest accomplishment is going out on my own, taking that leap, becoming an entrepreneur and not being hindered by, any sort of feedback that I may have gotten that wasn't positive. I had a few folks who were concerned that perhaps that wasn't the right choice, but I've been able to kind of prove them wrong. And now that I have a taste for doing my own thing, going back to a corporate environment is last on my list, because this is something I love to do. I love to create. And this is just, a way for me to be creative. And I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I can concur on that. Independence definitely has its advantages.
Oh,
much
it sure
more
does.
than at the corporate level. So outside of your practice, outside of your business, I'm curious something that you are really passionate about personally.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about patient advocacy. So I'll tell you why.
Yeah, first tell me what that is.
Sure.
And then you can tell me why.
Absolutely. So patient advocacy is really, so think of this, you go to the doctor's office, you have a condition, you're not really sure what it is, you're going on this journey of figuring out how to help yourself feel better. And patient advocacy is really knowing when to ask the right questions and knowing, when to trust the advice of the specialists and or the doctors that you see. And so, my son has a medical condition that required me to step in to be not only a parent advocate, but a patient advocate. And what I've witnessed in the healthcare system is that it's very hard to do. It is very hard to advocate for yourself when you are sitting in a room with a very well-educated professional who's telling you what you should do. And it's hard for folks who are in that situation to either push back or ask questions or try to figure out more, or even, when they're telling them there's nothing wrong with them and they know deep down there's something not right. It's trusting your gut, and it's being able to collaborate with medical professionals in a way that helps you and does not turn you into just another number, just another person that they've seen that day. And so I'm very passionate about patient advocacy, mainly, for children who are patients and have conditions. But generally speaking, I feel that it is very important for folks to be heard when they are seeking care, and for them to be able to ask questions and get educated and get information from their doctors and feel confident in their treatment plans and their care. So I do some volunteer work with some organizations focused on patient advocacy. I work closely with an organization that specifically handles the condition that my son has. And so those are just, it's very close to my heart, not only because of my own, personal situation with my child, but also because being an employee benefits professional, I have seen many employees that partners, colleagues that I've worked with who've been in situations where they were told to get an MRI and didn't need it. They had to get, 3 different diagnostic tests before they were told, what their diagnosis was. They were misdiagnosed. And it all comes down to a fear of not wanting to ask the question when you're in front of the doctor or when you're in the room, of not knowing what to ask, when to ask, how to ask. And I think there's an opportunity to continue to educate folks on that, because they should be a champion in their own healthcare.
Okay. Yeah, I like what you said there. And I know we're in a Zoom call, but I can definitely see your passion behind that through the screen. So that's great that you believe in that. And I think a lot of people, to your point, they just think, well, this smart person's in the room telling me, and so they're the be all end all, and I just go along with everything that they say, which may be okay, but in some cases maybe it isn't, and you're not making an informed decision.
Yeah, you need to be an active participant, in your own health. And that also has to take place when you're in the doctor's office too. You can't just rely on whomever you're seeing. You need to understand the why behind the things that they're telling you to do.
So, in our industry, in your industry, in ours, things are constantly changing. Rules change, regulations change. offerings change. You can do this, you can't do that. That was a good idea 5 years ago. Now it's not. So how do you kind of stay up to speed on everything that's going on and changing in your industry?
I'm thinking most recently of COVID and how, you just didn't know what change was going to be coming out.
What did they call it? It's an evolving situation, or what was the term that they used? It was some term like it's always changing, or it's evolving, or which basically meant we're going to go with this right now, and then we can always change it tomorrow, right? We're
gonna hope we're making the right choice today, right. And I rely on a lot of, national publications. I also have some employment law partners that provide updates to me regularly. I think, SHRM, the Society for Human Resources Management, is one of my, go-to sources for all things legislative as it comes out for, employment and benefits, compensation, all of that. But I do find that it is challenging to keep up with, especially when we work with national clients who are dispersed across the country, and there's all these different state laws and locality changes and requirements. And so it is really hard to kind of keep track of. But what I will say is that, when you're a benefits nerd like me, it's very easy to consume a lot of updated information. So I get regular email updates, and I have meetings with folks that kind of keep me up to speed. So it's probably the best part of my job, quite frankly. I love to read into all of that stuff. I love to read like pending legislation and I'm weird. I'm weird like that.
You don't like to read prospectuses, do you?
So I used to.
Oh my gosh.
But then I decided I'm going to start reading recreationally again. So I'm going to have to put down the prospectuses.
Those are reserved for people with insomnia or just don't like themselves. All right, we're almost to the end. We're about to land the plane. So most exciting part of your career, most exciting part of your business right now. What do you think is your biggest opportunity?
Biggest opportunity. Honestly, I am in the process of I've decided that I am going to come a little bit more into my own and own my experience and knowledge and try my best to impart my experience and my expertise in any way, shape, or form that I can. So I am really trying to grow myself as a thought leader in the HR space. And so that has been the most exciting. I mean, talking to you, getting interviewed, by others for articles, for podcasts, has been really exciting for me. I originally wanted to be a journalism major, and somehow I ended up doing what I'm doing. And so there's a part of me that is so jealous of those that are able to live and breathe, media relations and, writing and all of that on a daily basis. So I get excited when I have the opportunity to share my knowledge on a different platform. So that's probably the most exciting thing that's going on right now. But I am really very fortunate to have a great team that works with me at Next Level Benefits and great clients that are willing to kind of move mountains at this point to really create more best places to work. And I'm just really thrilled to continue to be a part of those projects and as we bring on new clients.
Fantastic. Now, what do you think is given all that success, what do you think is probably your biggest challenge going forward?
My biggest challenge for me, I think, is setting boundaries and not biting off more than I can chew. I think that folks who are leaders, entrepreneurs, I think we often are almost too motivated in some cases and try to take on too much. And I don't want that to come at the sacrifice of the quality of my work and the quality of, what my conversations can be like and what my relationships can be like. And so I think that the challenge for me is going to be, over time, making sure that I'm choosing the right projects and I'm choosing the right ways to spend my time. And I have a tendency to take on too much. And so I think I need to, relax a little bit and, realize that there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, never is. Do you see the impact either for your clients or for yourself of the commoditization, which is essentially, people having the opinion, that can be automated. That's done by AI. I can go on Google and do a search and get that done for me. So do you see that either with your clients or in your industry where people are going that route?
That's a really good question. One I haven't thought of before, quite frankly. The clients that we are currently working with, and I know I've probably brought up the pandemic more than you have in this conversation, but I do think it's relevant to answer this question that the pandemic really kind of halted a lot of strategic work in a lot of different ways, and HR is no exception. I think that there is so little investment that was made in a lot of HR teams, in HR systems, and HR technology, and the pandemic highlighted that. Mm-hmm. So it's now more on the forefront of, hey, like we probably need to invest, but there's, the strategy piece was kind of lost for a little bit over the past, year and a half. And I think that our clients are in a place now really focused on reimagining their workforces and their workplaces. And once they can kind of get over that hump, I think they're going to be laser focused on technology enhancements, ways that they can incorporate AI into their processes. Also, how can they simplify a lot of the tasks and or work that it's done within their organization. So I absolutely think that the appetite is there. I think that the pandemic kind of delayed it a little bit. And I think though that within the next, probably 2 to 3 years, we're going to have a lot more clients as well as just a lot more employers in general who are going to be much more laser focused on ways that they can improve process through technology.
And I think it's going to be interesting to see, because you probably know this too, but a lot of those things that get automated, whether it's an HR department or pension calculations or 401k help or webinars, I see a general low involvement in that. Like they're offerings, but not a lot of people are doing it, right? Now, that could be because they're just new and that type of thing, but I think it's going to be interesting as those become more widely available. If there continues to be a low adoption or a usage by the clients or by the employees of those businesses, again, not a reason not to do it, right? And then if that's the case, what tactics might have to be employed to try to get that up? Because you and I both know, as humans, it's just easier, don't change anything, right? Change is hard, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to just kind of sit where you are and not have to do anything. So I think that will be interesting as those things are more adopted to see if the adoption rates or the usage rates of those go up.
For sure. And communication is one of those things that, HR teams don't always do that well. And I think that, bringing in communication experts when you're, and change management experts, when you're incorporating changes like that into either a benefits plan or an HR process, or even just an organizational change, it makes the adoption process so much better. The adoption rates are higher when you can actively communicate what has changed, why we are changing it, and bringing folks along with you as the change is happening. I think that helps because a lot of, like you said, a lot of employers will just put something in place, but they don't actively communicate it and no one knows about it. And that's why the adoption rate is terrible. But I think if you take the right approach around communication and change management, you can overcome those hurdles.
That's well said. Now, if people wanted to learn more about you or contact you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. Thanks for asking. Next Level Benefits, our website is probably the best way to learn more about what we do. You can even, schedule a discovery call with us via the website. You could send me an email via the website. That website is nlbenefits.com. So I abbreviated Next Level, nlbenefits.com. And we list out there some comments from our current clients, testimonials, a list of the projects that we have done recently. We keep it up to date as well. We also have some great content out there from any sort of interviews that I may do. So all of our stuff is on the website. So please visit.
Fantastic. Lauren, I had a good time today.
Yes, me too, Kris. Thanks so much.
You've been a really insightful guest, and it's been a true pleasure to have you on. Lauren Winans was our esteemed guest, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in to the Confident Retirement Podcast, brought to you by LPF Advisors, where we're raising the retirement confidence of everyday people to another level, one show at a time. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Kris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.